as a test requester, one of the things that's going to be important to me is going through and reviewing the data that's been acquired by my team, whether it was the specialist or the test engineer and operator role, but somehow I'm going to want to go through and review the data. So I've just gotten done importing some of the production model data and some data from a prototype, and now I'm going to import some of the data that was taken on some of our benchmarks, some of the targets that we have. Now that I've imported all of that data, I can come over here and start generating some displays. So in here I can say that in addition to looking at the data in the tree view, maybe it would be helpful if I looked at things in the table view. Because in the table I now have the ability to look at some of the metadata. Here we can see the test object. There's also quite a bit of additional metadata out here, so we can see what type of road surface, who the technician was, what the test location is. But now what I'd like to do is go through and say, I want to look at all of the data associated with the inner ear. And I'd like to look at it for, maybe we'll start off looking at the competitor, this particular competitor. So I can select a couple of specific channels or specific orders for this channel, take and drag it into a display. If I want to change the way the data is displayed, I can simply right-click and do that. If I now want to do the same thing for one of the other competitors, I can just as easily do that. And we can go through and select those same sets of data and drag it into one of the other displays. And again, I can say I'd like to look at that data in DB. So now I can go through and move the cursors around and really kind of get an overview of what's going on. Maybe I want to compare the data a little bit differently. So rather than look at just the competitors, maybe now what I'd like to do is I'll select maybe all of the totals. And I'll look at the outer ear this time. So now you can see we have, if I make this column a little wider, all of the competitors, the prototype, and the production unit. But maybe rather than looking at this on a page that I'll call benchmark, maybe I want to come to another page where we can look at all the overall levels. And I can grab all of this data, drag it here into the display. And again, I can show this as DB. And now we can kind of get a quick overview of all of the levels. And, we can change the scale a little bit or, kind of maneuver around here within the graph. So I would say we've got a lot of flexibility here. And again, I can look at another page and we can, maybe select all of the data for, again, one of the specific competitors. And maybe for this, now I want to grab one of the other results. And we'll grab one of our contour plots. There tends to be a lot of data when we drag this data in. So it may take a second to load. There we go. Now we've got these nice color contour plots. And any of the data that I see, again, if I wanted to switch to one of the other competitors, just to, again, make it easy to start comparing back and forth. Any of the data that looks interesting, if I wanted to say populate this data into a report, I can simply click this button and send this data off to the report. So maybe what we'll do is we'll come back to this page with the overall levels. So we have a nice single graph that we can send off to the report. Once that's done, I can click the check mark in order to move me to my report. I can review the graph here in the Microsoft Word document that's embedded here inside of the BK Connect software. Here I can see my graph, and if everything looks good and I want to go back and start to review a little bit more data, I can click the check mark again, and it moves me right back to the data viewer. And again, now I can go back and start creating whatever displays I want and making whatever decisions I need to for the product.